doing another one of these videos. I'm sort of, just because I'm also need to do this work on my system. And I don't know, the last one was fun. People, had interesting responses to it. And so I figure I may as well continue to do them. And, a couple changes to how I'm producing this. So the last one you may have noticed was really low res. I was streaming it to Twitch, and then I downloaded it from Twitch to edit and then upload to YouTube. So it wound up being like 480p. So this one, I was still streaming it, still using my very old iPhone SE original cell phone for the camera, streaming it to, this time I'm streaming it to a local computer, I'm recording it there, and so that gives me a lot more control over the resolution, so I can stream in like actual 1080p from the cell phone, and then I'll be able to edit that down. So we should get better quality, and the bandwidth here the Wi-Fi here is pretty decent, so quality should be okay. I'm also using this lab mic for my voice, partly to isolate it because like I have housemates on Zoom calls right now, and also just so that there's not so much of the sort of like shifts in my voice as I like move closer to and further from the camera, although I think that there will be a lot less this time. And so this is going to be a shorter video also. So last time I installed a new power supply, an actually quiet power supply, and I installed some cable extensions because they look nice. So this time what I'm doing is I've got a new CPU cooler, because so far I've just been using the stock Intel like LGA 1151 cooler, not even from this CPU, from an older CPU in the same socket. And I'm starting to sort of notice, as I'm doing more video editing, I'm starting to notice that the processor can't boost up all the way. So I think this thing tops out around like 4.7, 4.8 gigahertz, but it can only really get up to 4.2, and starting to see, cores like hitting the 92, 93 mark, which is concerning. The processor does a good job of protecting itself. I haven't overclocked it or anything, but it's still just like, be nice to get that extra, eke that extra like 10% performance out, and not have to worry about processor, any damage to the processor, because it was a nice processor. It's kind of an expensive part for me right now. So this is a, like a $50 or $80 cooler, which is like vastly oversized for the kind of thermals that this 7700K puts out, and it should be like more than enough for this purpose. So I'm also swapping out my 16 gigs of Crucial Ballistics Elite something or other, for a set of this like G-Skill Ripjaws 5 64 gig set, and switching from a discrete PCIe Wi-Fi and Bluetooth card to the little M.2 Key Bluetooth card, and then ideally going to do some cable management with these Velcro cable ties I got. But that's sort of also the order of priority. Like I'll see whatever I get done before my housemates go to bed, and then that'll be it. Oh yeah, also I have housemates now. I'm not in the same place. I moved last week. That's why everything is not where it's supposed to be. And you can't see it, but there's a huge mess of boxes behind the camera. So, yeah. Be glad you can't see that. I have like many fewer things to complain about this time, so it will probably be a less interesting stream than last time too, but I know. Maybe I will find things to gripe about here, or things to be excited about. I prefer that, but so yeah, first order of business is the cooler. And I do have thermal paste. It's gonna be back here. Let's see. I haven't actually opened this up. This is the Be Quiet Dark Rock Slim, which is, yeah, it looks like a nice product. I've been pretty happy with their power supply, and so decided to go with this. I forget what else I looked at. I looked at like a Noctua thing, and it seemed, I forget whether there was some trouble like getting it, you know, like one of their Chromax designs or what, but I just like, I didn't, I wound up going with this after like a lot of research. I have heard that these coolers are like somewhat challenging to install, so this might be more of an adventure than I anticipated. It's been ages since I've worked with like a fancy cooler. I had one. I guess it was like the same kind of sort of like horizontal rather than vertical design on my old computer, but it looked, you know, it wound up looking very similar to the sort of what Intel wound up using as the stock cooler on these more recent CPUs. So here's the fan, the Silent Wings 3 fan, which looks like a nice fan, as long as I make sure I get it pointed the right direction. It's a 120mm fan. And then this is the cooler itself. Some little bits and pieces of like plastic on it, but yeah, it looks super nice. And it's obviously just, you know, plain a lot more metal in it than the stock cooler, which I'll show you once I get it off. So, all right. What do our instructions say? Since I've never done this before. I mean, I installed the stock cooler, but obviously never one of these tower coolers before. Oh boy. I hope that these things are labeled well. Unlike the PSU cables, which were not labeled well. All right. So this little baggie is labeled Intel. That seems like a good place to start. That little baggie is labeled AMD. Great. They've got some thermal paste in here, but I think I'll use my own because I have a nice like Arctic Silver 5, which has been good to me in the past. What is this? This little black bracket with 2 screws, I'm guessing is... Oh no, that does go. Okay, that's step 4. We will set that aside then for step 4. I guess first though, I should probably get the old cooler off. Actually, you know what? Let me also take out the RAM. I think that's going to make this a lot easier to install, and then I can get the RAM in after I've got the cooler on, because this cooler shouldn't conflict with the RAM, because it is so, like, so skinny relative to some of, you know, the monstrous ones that, Be Quiet sells for, you know, the like top of the line, you know, AMD Threadripper kind of stuff. So these are going to go on the static mat and probably going to go on eBay. I've been having good luck with that. A lot of people looking for stuff, paying reasonable prices for it. So we'll hold off on putting the new RAM in, but now that means that I can get in and like actually like undo these little pressure mount things. Well, you know, actually, it'll also be easier to install this Wi-Fi Bluetooth card with the cooler out, or before I put the new cooler in. So why don't I do that as well? I guess I'm doing all of this sort of like the opposite of the way that I said I was going to do it. But so it goes. Yeah, there we go. Great. I gotta unplug it. Try to pull only on the connector and not on the wires. Great. All right. Well, yeah, I got decent coverage. I was worried about it, but no, I've got like coverage of the entire cold plate at least, so great. So before at my old place, I had this hooked up to wired network, and so I wasn't using the Wi-Fi, I was just using the Bluetooth. But since moving to the new place, I could like run a wire all the way out, or just like there's a Wi-Fi repeater outside my room actually, but that's just like more trouble than it's worth, I think, really. And so, I've been using Wi-Fi and it's been fine so far. Besides just it being like a cleaner look, one of the real nice things about the switching from the discrete PCIe card to the M.2 card is that I get, I don't need this stupid USB dongle, which you'll recall I was complaining about last time. So it frees up an internal USB 2 header, which is great. I mean, I have enough because I've also got this USB extension or expander card. But it's just like nice to not need to, you know, not need to worry about that, because it was both ugly and sort of like, I don't know, it offended my proprieties. I found it inelegant. And I'm sort of curious like how M.2 gets away with not having that. But I'll need to read up on that, because I mean, like, I thought that M.2 was just like, just gave you a PCI E sort of interface. Now let me read up on installing M.2. You would think that if the M.2 slot shares a PCIe lane with a PCIe slot, it would be the one right next to it, but it looks like it's not. Like, I guess like 1, 2, 3? Seems like it should be the one that's... Oh yeah, okay, so it's the one that's right under the graphics card, which is fine, because I don't want to install anything there anyway. So, there we go. Cool. Now, installing M.2 devices. It's supposed to be a screw that came pre-attached to the standoff. Oh, there we go. Wait, what? Which side am I installing you on? Installing you on that side. Yeah, there's supposed to be a screw there. There is not a screw there, but that's fine. I have more screws in the baggie in the box. Insert the M.2 device at a slight angle, approximately 45 degrees from the board. This will allow the contacts, colloquially called gold fingers, to seat completely into the slot. Ha, wonder who calls them that. Give this a go. Here's the wireless card. All right. Oh, it comes pre-connected to its antennas. That's also going to be interesting. So this antenna cable is like way too long. So I went and found like an appropriately short antenna cable on Amazon, I think. See if I can't pop these very carefully. No. Let me see if I can't use my spudger to pop these very carefully. There we go. Still the best tool. All right, so I'm going to, you know, I probably want to get the, you can see, isn't it so tiny? You know, compared to the full PCI, discrete PCI, yet it's the same chipset. It's the same like Intel Wi-Fi 6 chipset. AX200. So that means that I ought to get the old antennas off the PCI. I think I'm also going to use the external antenna that came with the I'm going to need a wrench. Crud. So this is the original antenna, which has this nice sort of design. It's small and, you know, lightweight and, you know, non-obtrusive, not like some of these like big antennas with it. And I can sort of position it, got a long cable, and I can sort of put it wherever I want is magnetized, so it pulls onto the top of the case, and it's pretty nice. I'm curious if in this apartment the sort of, more standard, little antennas like this will work, like probably with the way that, with the Wi-Fi being right out there and not, sort of like being blocked by the case, they'll work fine. So I'll probably still hold on to this. I don't know. I'll see what I do. So I realized, just as I was doing this, that my voice recorder stopped recording, probably because I brushed up against it in some way while I was doing some of this work. And so the audio from the cell phone may not be great, and so we'll see how that goes. Might have to do some voiceover for bits and pieces of this, but so it goes. Nothing to be done about it now. And I do have the scratch audio from the camera if I need. So, first thing to do is get this reconnected. And the next thing to do will be to get into the BIOS and make sure that the M.2 is configured appropriately. Great. I see that I have power to the keyboard, which is good. It's nice to double check that before I turn it on, because otherwise I'm always paranoid about not pressing the right key to get into the BIOS. So once I see the boot screen, I'm not hearing post beeps. That's concerning. Fans are spinning, but excellent. Great. Now I turn the power supply switch on. Oh, no, see, it's coming up. Uh-oh. Maybe it wasn't the RAM. That should be beeping. What am I forgetting? Oh, here we go. Good. Okay. So it was the RAM. And I'm probably not going to have network when I get in, because I'm going to need to go back into the BIOS, but just verifying that the system does in fact boot. It's always that moment of where your heart stops a little bit. Well, the cooler was definitely the most important thing to get in. So, yeah. I do not have network. No. Alright, great. That's fine. Easy problem to solve. Now that I know that it boots, what I want to do is I want to enable M.2 socket 1. Great. P through disabled with M.2 enabled, which is great because I don't have anything in there. Save and exit. Save changes and reset. Yes. I love the sound of post beeps. Also, I love EVGA does really nice motherboard manuals. I think with most of the systems that I had until I started buying their motherboards, I don't recall them having good manuals. I don't recall them having any manuals at all, really. So, this is super nice. Big props to them. Okay, interesting. It's like it forgot. But it does have Wi-Fi. Connect. Yes. Be discoverable, connected, secured. Great. Wi-Fi just works. Same Intel chipset, same Intel drivers. Just double check that Bluetooth works. Find my... Not seeing this. I wonder if I'm going to need to reassociate. Yes, remove device. Hopefully it actually, will. The same way that I had to, associate with a new Wi-Fi network. Or reassociate with this Wi-Fi network. Failed. Yikes. Turn these off. Just on the... I feel like I had to go in to device manager or something and get rid of them, which was frustrating. Well, let me go in to device manager. Find the Great. Yes, I would like to pair. Great. Perfect. Now, just double check that that worked by. Perfect. All right. So, I've now got my computer running with the new Wi-Fi card, the new cooler, and 3 out of 4 sticks of the new RAM, for a total of 48 gigabytes, while I wait for G-Skill's RMA department to send me a replacement for the bad stick. So that's great. Even the 48 gigabytes is a little bit overkill right now, but it's a huge improvement to be able to use 16 gigabytes without swapping. This thing is actually running at somewhere between 7 and 10 gigabytes in use, just sort of like idle. I'm not entirely certain where that's coming from. A lot of, sort of control center stuff in the background, I guess, and Chrome. So it's nice to have that extra space. And then with Premiere open, like right now I'm sitting with this project open at like 18 gigabytes claimed. And some of the auto analysis that Premiere Elements can run can use up to like, I've seen it use up to like 28 or 30 gigabytes on a 4K video. And so to be able to use all of that without swapping is just huge, because the swap is really what kills me. And that's with like, relatively simple stuff. So I suspect that as I add more layers and more effects, I'll increasingly make use of more and more of that 64 gigabytes. So that's good. CPU temps are great as well. It's maxing out around 70 degrees Celsius on my hottest core when rendering video, which was so much better than what I was doing with the stock cooler. I've still seen it top 80 degrees Celsius on like one of our 90 degree Fahrenheit days. So I've got to be careful if I consider, overclocking it or replacing it, in the long term with a, hotter chip. We don't have AC here in San Francisco. Nobody does. But the case airflow is great, and it's a big and over-provisioned cooler, so I should have some headroom to play around with. Also, over-provisioned like that, the new CPU fan is like actually silent, even under full load. So next up, I was idly watching some Gamers Nexus CPU review videos before bed, as one does, and saw that they measure the i9 9900K as cutting Premiere video encoding times down something like 30% above my i7 8700K, which is just nuts. That's taking a 20-minute render, which is like the timeline render, which is something that I will do multiple times over the course of a project in the middle in order to like be able to proceed with the work. That's taking a 20-minute render and turning it into a 15-minute render, which is huge. Or taking a 30-minute render, turning it into a 20-minute render, that kind of thing. And so that got me excited. The 9900K also turns out to be the same price as what I paid for the 8700K, and it gets me 2 extra cores, which is apparently most of what matters for video editing, and it's only a couple hundred megahertz slower in clock speed. Also, it's the best CPU my motherboard supports, so like, sort of maxing that out felt reasonable. And so, yeah, I've got that here. I'm gonna get that in. That'll be a nice upgrade. That does mean that I'll need to remove the CPU cooler that I just installed. I'll still be able to use the new cooler with the new CPU. I'm just like sort of like entertained to be taking it out again already, having put it in like last week. So if I'd wanted to go beyond the 9th generation Intel CPUs, I would have needed to get a new motherboard, And new motherboards for current gen CPUs are super pricey right now. I paid about $90 for mine. They're running, mid 300s. And the Gamers Nexus numbers didn't show those CPUs as providing nearly the same performance uplift above the 9th generation Intel as the uplift of going from 8th to 9th generation Intel. So it just didn't feel, paying together, at least double for like half the performance just didn't feel like a great use of my sort of, limited funds right now. And on the flip side, my old 8700K looks like it's going for like about 100 less on eBay than I paid for it. So I should be able to sell it off and not even wind up at the end of the day down the full sticker price for the new CPU. So that's great. And like after that, I really just need to start making more videos and making more of them in the direction that I want to go long term, sort of more around my professional work, more sort of like software safety, software security, cybersecurity, whatever you want to call it. And I'm going to start by sort of taking some of my blog posts, my blog content, and doing videos, turning that into videos. And then I want to, make more original stuff, sort of like expanding around that, that I can do in video form. That's, maybe a more natural or a more engaging fit in video form. So after doing like a couple of these computer videos, I feel reasonably comfortable with my sort of basic level of like video production and editing skills. I'm still going to try to improve things like the audio quality, as you've seen here, and the video quality, and the overall production values, and just keep iterating on that within the limits of my time and budget. But I think that I can start to do some more serious things without worrying that I'm going to embarrass myself from a purely technical standpoint. I'm definitely going to do more of these computer videos, though, because they've been fun. I've got some more projects in the works, which, again, I'm going to be doing anyway. So I might as well, make these videos and talk about them with y'all. Probably not the new CPU installation. I think that's going to be a quick, in and out thing, but some other things, sort of longer term that are more in the works, and I'll talk about them more as they happen. So that's it for this video. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe, as they say, and I'll see you next time.